Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us on this short webinar to answer your questions on live blood analysis and the training course. I'm Elizabeth, the organizer at Live Blood Online and NeoGenesis Systems, and Dr. Ocker, your tutor, is also here to answer your questions. So thank you very much for sending your questions in. We'll be answering them live here on the webinar. If you do have any other questions, please email them in, or right now, if you can locate the questions box on the panel on your screen, there's a box in there for posting questions. If you could write your questions in there, we will be answering them. We also have some questions that have been sent in, so we'll be answering those as well. So please locate the questions box and just put a quick OK in there so we know that you've found it okay. Meanwhile, you'll be able to find information about the training course, including the course outline, course dates, price, how to enroll, etc., and some information about live blood analysis on the website, which is www.livebloodonline.com. We also have a lot of questions from Australia and New Zealand, and unfortunately these people are not able to attend because of the time difference. So they've sent quite a few of their questions in, and we will be answering them today, and then they'll receive the recording afterwards. Okay, Melanie, good. You're in, good. Okay, so let's get started with some of your questions. This is quite a common one. Do I need a medical, Dr. Ocker, I'm going to introduce you, Dr. Ocker, your tutor, in a moment. So this is the first question for you, Dr. Ocker. Do I need a medical background to practice live blood analysis?
All right. Hi, Elizabeth, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. So no, live blood analysis is not a medical diagnostic test, and we don't need a medical background to be able to do it. We don't detect any medical conditions with live blood analysis. It's a technique that fits into the scope of a natural health practice, and natural medicine, nutrition, or as it's often referred to, complementary and alternative medicine, or CAM. The imbalances that we detect with live blood analysis fits squarely into the realm of complementary medicine. So any person practicing any form of natural health or working in the field of nutrition will benefit from using live blood analysis on their clients.
Thank you. And how accurate the live blood analysis is, or how accurate is live blood analysis?
Well, yes, it is very accurate when it's used correctly. So that's obviously quite important. The technique needs to be just right, and that's something that we do cover in detail in the course. The various anomalies and interpretations have been verified by hundreds of practitioners using live blood analysis in their practices. If the results were not accurate and not reliable, it simply wouldn't work. Patients and practitioners alike would they not benefit from it, and it would have whittled away many years ago. But instead, what we're seeing is that we have a growing base of practitioners who use it in their practices and benefit from it. And many of these practitioners are highly qualified and work in the field of integrative medicine, and they find it to be an indispensable tool in their practices.
Thank you. And will I be able to offer blood cell analysis after the training?
Well, yes, absolutely. We issue a certificate after the training, which is CMA approved. Although live blood analysis is not regulated, it is important to be able to prove that you've received formal training. Most attendees who started working with the correct microscope from early on in the course are able to start offering live blood analysis in the practices by the end of the course.
Thank you. Does live blood analysis involve the drawing of blood?
No, not really. Not in terms of drawing blood from a vein with a syringe. It's a relatively non-invasive process where a drop of blood is collected from a finger prick, very similar to the finger pricks that diabetics have to do to monitor their own blood sugar levels.
Thank you. And isn't it better to study hands-on rather than online?
Well, no, not really. You know, we provide really the best format to study live blood analysis. And this is what we've seen from many of our practitioners who have attended hands-on training courses and who actually enrolled in our course afterwards and commented that this is the best format that they've actually come across. What you would learn from hands-on training is covered in detail in the course during the lessons and also in the form of videos. Now we go through the various microscope settings and how to take blood samples correctly in detail. And since everything is recorded, you can then also go back and review it as many times as you like. Now, this is not the case with hands-on training, you know, where we found that people often forget much of what they've learned after a 2 or 3 day course, and then they have nowhere to go to review the information afterwards.
Thank you. And what does live blood analysis actually show?
Well, quite a large number of imbalances can actually be detected with live blood analysis. We're able to detect underlying nutritional imbalances at the cellular level. Now, various vitamin and mineral deficiencies can be detected. Imbalances in the pH, the balance between nutrition and toxicity, things like candida, parasites, the immune function, stress on various organ systems, hormonal imbalances, heavy metal toxicity, as well as the risk of degenerative disease developing. You know, so there's a number of things. We're also then able to choose the best course of treatment based on what was actually uncovered in the analysis. And then you know, this is really a key benefit. We're able to monitor the client's progress during treatment to see whether the treatment is actually working. We're also able to demonstrate the negative effects of unhealthy diet and lifestyle. So this is, you know, through this we're able to motivate people to make the necessary changes then in these areas to prevent disease and also improve their health in the long term. This really creates an interactive and a very different dynamic in your practice, and it helps to show your clients that most of their health is actually up to them. You know, they need to take responsibility for their own health. This is quite a difficult thing to actually do without live blood analysis, especially in older clients who still believe that the doctor is the custodian of their health.
I don't know if this is maybe the same question, but what kind of illness we are able to detect from the blood or live blood analysis?
Right, well, it is important perhaps just for us to mention that we don't use live blood analysis to diagnose any illnesses. You know, if you expect to be able to diagnose disease with live blood analysis, you'll find that it falls short of your expectations. It's not really what live blood analysis was developed for, and those who use it successfully don't really use it to diagnose diseases. Instead, it provides you with information that you'll find will be very difficult to nearly impossible to uncover with any other technique. It allows you to uncover the underlying imbalances in the body's internal environment or the terrain that have facilitated the development of disease. And by addressing these imbalances, the underlying cause of the disease is then treated. So in this way, it allows you to really home in on and treat the actual cause of disease, which is really fundamental to what we do in natural medicine.
Thank you. We've got a couple of questions about microscopes now. Do I need a microscope to take the course, and do I need to buy a microscope to take the training course? Same questions.
Okay. Yeah, it's not necessary to have a microscope at the beginning of the course. It's actually possible to go through the lessons and learn all the theory before going on to the practical aspects where a microscope will be needed. Now, many of attendees do it this way, but it is important to mention that we only issue a certificate to an attendee after reviewing their case studies. Now, to complete your case studies, you would of course need to have access to a microscope.
Thank you. What do I need to look for in a microscope? Is the next question.
All right, well, this is quite an interesting and an important question to cover. There are a few very important things to look for. And, you know, one of the most important features that sets a proper live blood analysis microscope apart from other microscopes is its ability to do dark field analysis properly. Now, the first thing to look for with regards to dark field is the strength of the light source. A minimum of 50 watt halogen or the equivalent in LED is required for dark field. Now, most standard microscopes have a 20 watt light source, which is obviously not sufficient for dark field analysis. Now, our LED microscopes have a 9 watt LED light source, which is equivalent to 100 watt halogen. The microscope also needs to have a dedicated dark field oil immersion condenser, which is usually interchangeable with a bright field condenser. And good quality optics are also very important to prevent aberrations and also a wide magnification range. Now, in live blood, we actually need a high level of magnification. This is really quite important. At least 1,000 times magnification is needed on the viewing screen when looking at live blood anomalies. And in dry blood, we need a low level of magnification. So it's quite important to have a wide magnification range. Now, our microscopes have typically a magnification range of 40 to 4,000 times. Now, they have additional magnification going to the viewing screen. This is in the video tube of the camera itself. And this then allows you to get a magnification of 1,600 times on the screen using the 40 times objective, as opposed to 400 times, which you would get with a standard microscope. Some live blood needs a magnification of at least 1,000 times, you know, for most of your live blood anomalies. This is quite an ideal feature then, as you're able to get to this level of magnification using a 40 times objective instead of having to use the 100 times objective. Now, this then also allows you to get to the 4,000 times magnification when you switch over to the 100 times objective, which is really great to have if you have an interesting microbe that you need to look at, that additional magnification. The camera is also an important part of the system. Not all cameras are sensitive enough for dark field, and often the frame rate is also overlooked when looking at cameras. Often people look for the highest resolution camera that they can find, but in most of these cameras, the frame rate then tends to go down as the resolution goes up. So for a smooth video in live blood, you need a frame rate of at least 30 frames per second, which is quite rare when you look at your high resolution cameras. Now, our HDMI USB camera that comes with our HDMI LED system is a full HD camera that provides a frame rate of 60 frames per second at a full HD resolution.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very important to get the right microscope. There are a lot out there that say that they're for dark field and for live blood analysis, but they're actually not for live blood analysis either, because specifications are very, very specialized. We have another microscope question, which is, where is the best place to get a microscope and how much do they cost?
Right, well, we do supply the best microscopes for live and dry blood analysis based on those specifications that I just mentioned. Now, this is something that is quite important because, you know, there are many microscopes on the market, as you mentioned, that claim to be dark field microscopes, but they might be suitable for dark field with other applications when viewing other types of samples, but they're not really suitable for live blood analysis. The viewing of live blood anomalies in dark field requires a very specific set of features in a microscope. Now remember, the dark field is not exclusive to live blood analysis. It's actually a technique that's been used in microscopy for many years for various applications. But the researchers that started working with live blood analysis in dark field found that there are a very specific set of requirements for a microscope to be suitable to analyze live blood in dark field properly and for those dark field anomalies to show properly. Most commercially available dark field microscopes don't have the necessary specifications. So, this is a potential pitfall, and it's a big problem, when attendees have a microscope where they're not actually able to see all the anomalies that they've learned about. So having studied live blood analysis and having worked with many different microscopes myself, I've researched this extensively, and we've ensured that the microscopes that we offer have the best specifications possible for live blood analysis. Now there are many unique features to our systems that are really not available in any other microscopes. So we believe that using any other system will be a compromise to some extent.
Hello, Dr. Rocker.
Yeah, sorry, did you lose me there for a moment?
Lost you for a moment, yes. Melanie's saying, I live in Canada. Would you ship a microscope to Canada safely?
Yes, absolutely. So we supply microscopes to attendees from all over the world. Many of our attendees that enroll in the course actually do end up purchasing the microscopes from us because of these features that we've discussed. So the microscopes are shipped internationally. They're shipped with proper protective packaging. We have shipments being handled. It's usually shipped with DHL, and it's also shipped with very detailed assembly instructions. So there's some assembly required, some parts that need to be just put together to get the microscope working. But we do supply detailed instructions in a printed format, and also in a proper video as well, where it actually shows you step by step on how to assemble the microscope. And of course there's live video support in cases where clients are struggling with anything specific.
Wonderful, thank you. And is there any research to back up live blood analysis?
Well, yes, there have been a number of studies in live blood analysis. Now, if you look on the internet, you'll find that it is often called a pseudoscience, and is criticized that there's no scientific research behind it, and that it's just some sort of gimmick to sell products. However, much of what we see in live blood samples have been researched and proven many years ago already in conventional hematology. Much of the information is actually based upon just conventional hematology. There are also other anomalies in live and also especially in dry blood that were identified clinically by researchers working with live and dry blood analysis over the course of many years. Now, many of these relate to conditions that actually can't be tested for with conventional investigations. So they are quite difficult to verify in any way that's acceptable to conventional medicine, but we always see the anomalies respond to the recommended interventions. With regards to actual research, there have been a number of small studies that have shown very strong correlations between the findings in live blood analysis and conventional blood tests. Because live blood analysis is much more sensitive though than conventional blood tests, this is not something that can be done for all the live blood analysis anomalies, but in some of these studies they looked at anomalies that can be easily detected in conventional blood tests. So for example, specific anemia indicators in patients with iron deficiency anemia, liver indicators in patients with liver disease, and so on. Now, our live blood analysis was shown to be very accurate in these specific cases. Now, in one study, for example, the authors were able to demonstrate an equal sensitivity between dark field microscopy and standard chemistry analysis for the variables that were studied. A number of other studies and conference papers have shown a positive correlation between pathology markers and dark field microscopy, but these are mostly retrospective clinical observations and reports on single patients or small groups. Another recent study from 2015 showed a very strong correlation between specific live blood analysis indicators and metabolic syndrome. Now, all of these studies in live blood analysis are, of course, not to the scale that's required by conventional medicine, but they do show that what we're seeing in the blood is reliable, does stand up to scientific testing when any testing is actually performed.
Thank you. I'm in Australia. What about the time difference?
Right. Well, we do have attendees from all over the world in different time zones, and this is then where the recordings are very useful. Attendees in different time zones can view the recordings later and then post their questions to the private Facebook page. The fact that the lessons are recorded is also very useful for giving practitioners the ability to then go over and review the lessons as many times as they like, and also if you've had to miss a lesson, for any specific reason. We believe that by providing these recordings, we actually offer a huge advantage in our training course.
Thank you. And does the training course provide protocols to know what to do when we find anomalies?
Yes, it does. We do list very specific protocols under each anomaly in the manual. Now, this is covered in detail and includes specific herbal and naturopathic formulations that have been tried and tested, as well as dietary and lifestyle anomaly that's covered.
Thank you. And what's the difference between live blood analysis and other tests used by natural health practitioners, such as the quantum analyzers and biofeedback devices?
Right, so that's an interesting question. In terms of what can be identified, there is some overlap between live blood analysis and some of these other devices. And we've seen a very strong correlation between results from live blood analysis and certain biofeedback analyzers used by experienced practitioners. The actual test itself is obviously very different, and this is also quite relevant then in terms of the perceived credibility of the tests. Clients are generally quite confident in the results from live blood analysis, since they can see that it's their blood that's being analyzed, without anything being added or changed in the sample during the analysis, whereas they don't really understand how a biofeedback device works, and it's quite difficult as well for a practitioner to explain how these devices work. So people are generally more skeptical of the results from these types of tests. We've also found that in live blood analysis, it's very easy to determine what the most important priorities are for each client's health. Only the most important issues feedback analysis, depending on the type of device, it can be quite difficult to decide where to start, as often there is just too much information. And lastly, the visual impact of live blood analysis really is unparalleled. Nothing really compares to it, and no other test has the same effect in motivating people or sometimes giving them the wake-up call that they need, to make the necessary changes. Now, I've used many of these other devices in my own practice, and I've seen without question that live blood analysis makes the greatest impact in practice.
Thank you. And do you provide backup after the training course?
Well, yes, we do. We provide email support for our course attendees and full after-sales support with a 2-year warranty on our microscopes. We also have the private Facebook page where attendees can post questions, interact, and continue learning.
Thank you. Are you registered? Or sorry, registered. Are you regulated?
Yes, we are. We are regulated. We are a CMA approved. This is a complementary medical association in the UK. We're also in the process of registering or looking at other associations as well, but the main one is the Complementary Medical Association in the UK.
Thank you. What's the difference between a medical blood test and live blood analysis?
Well, quite a lot actually. Live blood analysis is really quite different from conventional medical blood tests. Now, in terms of the actual test, we use capillary blood to view the blood in its fresh and unaltered state. Whereas in medical blood tests, the blood is drawn from a vein and only then viewed hours later after staining the sample and, thereby effectively killing the cells. Much of or many of the blood tests in conventional medicine are actually done through automated machines and not actual microscopy is actually performed on many of the samples. Live blood analysis is much more sensitive then for a wide number of anomalies that conventional blood tests are not really able to determine at that same level of sensitivity. So we're able to see a number of imbalances in live blood analysis long before any imbalances can be detected in a conventional blood test. So very useful as a tool for prevention. So we actually say that medical blood tests are used really to diagnose medical conditions, whereas live blood analysis is more used for prevention.
Thank you. And any more questions, please put them in the box there. But the final question, unless you have any more, is how much time will be needed or will we need to invest each week for the training course?
All right, well, in terms of the actual live lessons, each lesson each week is 1 hour long. We also recommend that you spend some time studying the relevant parts of the manual after or before the lesson, and that would require another 1 to 2 hours to study those parts of the manual in detail. And then, of course, there is also the need for some practical time behind the microscope. So there you would need to spend probably from about 1 hour every second day to an hour every day, depending on when you actually want to get started. So the more time you spend behind the microscope, looking at samples and taking blood samples, the faster you'd be able to become proficient in the technique itself and become confident, so that by the end of the course you'd be able to actually start offering it to your clients.
Thank you. And how much is the course in Canadian dollars and with the microscope?
I'm not quite sure what the conversion is from US dollars to Canadian dollars. We would need to have a look at that. The course is $5.99 British pounds. So we would need to actually look at the conversion rate to see what that is. And then the microscope itself is just over $6,000 at 6,227. So we would need to look at what the conversion is of that to Canadian dollars as well.
Thank you. I'll actually I'll be sending you a recording of this webinar, and also I'll send you an estimate of the prices in Canadian dollars within the hour. And with the microscope and the training course, does that include everything that you will need to get started?
Well, yes, the only other requirement would be your consumables, you know, so your slides and your lancets and your gloves and so on that you would use to actually take blood samples and view blood samples. But we do supply a list of of suppliers for those consumables where you're actually able to source them from in your own country. So we will provide you with that information. And then if you work out the cost of those consumables per client, it's actually quite, it really is quite low. So those items you would need on a on a permanent basis, and you would reorder. So it's best to obviously source them locally. But in terms of the cost, it's actually quite low.
If I can't take this in January, when's the next training course start date? I think it's April the 17th. I'm not too sure. Again, I'll be able to send you that later with the recording. So if you have any further questions, please put them in the box. Otherwise, that brings us to the end. So thank you very much for joining us on this short webinar. We hope it's been of help and answered some of your questions. If you do have any further questions, please just send us an email to, hang on. Don't seem to be able to find it, just bear with me. Here we go, info@livebloodlondon.co.uk. So send any questions in there. And as I say, we'll be sending you a recording of this, also with your questions that you've asked here tonight. So the next training course will begin on Tuesday, January the 14th. So please email me if you'd like to join us, if you'd like to save you a space. So we hope to see you there. Anything to add to that, Dr. Rocker?
No, I think if there's any questions, of course, it can be sent by email, and we'll obviously respond to that. And look forward to seeing everyone in the next course.
Wonderful. So thank you very, very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on the course. Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Rocker.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.